Hello and welcome to the sixth and final Lent talk of 2025. Christ Beyond the Church. We've had a wonderful series. All of them are available on the YouTube channel, um, which there will be a link to if you're watching this video on any of our social media platforms. And welcome if you are watching it on YouTube. Thank you for finding it and watching it. Week 6 out of the 6, which I've entitled DVD Easter Eggs, Discovering the Hidden Things. And that will become clear and apparent if you don't understand it already very shortly. But let's begin with a time of stillness, a time of arriving, a time of becoming fully present to just be here now. Just ensure that your physical self, ensure your body is rested and relaxed and comfortable. So just take a moment just to ensure that, shuffle yourself and make sure that there's no discomfort or tension in any of your muscles in your body. Make sure you're all relaxed and rested and comfortable. And then just breathe nice and deeply and easily. Just slowly, natural breathing rhythm. Bring your focus of your mind in onto your breath. You might find it helps to close your eyes to draw your focus in. As we focus and become aware of our breath, become aware of your physical self, and become aware of your physical feelings, where any sensations are. Focus inwards a little bit and become aware of your own thought patterns, the pace of them, not what they are, don't engage in them, just become aware of your thought patterns, just to draw your focus a little inwards. And drawing more inwards from your thoughts to your emotions and feelings. What is the dominant feeling in this moment? What do you feel right now? Just awareness, no judgment if there could be any, just self-awareness. Drawing further in from the emotions and feelings, drawing down into a deeper sense of self. Become aware of your own sense of self in a place closer to the center of your being, not the passing emotions, but a deeper sense of self. Finally, drawing into the very core of your being, become aware that the divine image and presence is there, resting in the very center and core of your being. Focus on the divine presence within you. Draw your focus back onto your breath now, flowing in and out of your body. And as you breathe, gently remaining in the sense of stillness, calm, and quiet. Bring your focus out, open your eyes into the surroundings and the screen in front of you. Well, welcome to week 6 of these Lent talks, something I do each year, a series of talks over Lent to enable us just to go a little deeper, a little broader, a bit more transcendent in our thinking, in our theology as we lead up to the Easter weekend. Now, this time next week, the Easter weekend will be over. The focus on the final days of the life of the incarnation of Christ in Jesus through the death and then the resurrection next Sunday will have passed once again in our thought process. And after that, what happens? Where do we go from there with that? Now, the idea of DVD Easter eggs, I've called it DVD Easter eggs, but actually it goes beyond that. It can be on Blu-ray, and actually it started off in computer games. Um, I called it that. I use DVD because if I just put Easter eggs, maybe you would think I was talking about Easter eggs rather than the kind of the DVD things or the Blu-ray and computer game things, which are actually hidden things. It takes its name from Easter eggs, from the fact that most people, particularly in Western culture and Western civilization, have some kind of Easter egg hunt over the Easter period, or at least it is a popular thing to do, even if you don't do it or don't go to one. An Easter egg hunt, which is where Easter eggs are hidden around various places, gardens, houses, wherever you might be, wild public areas where there's a park or something. And people then just go and find them. Nobody knows where they are. Often the people who hide them don't even know where they are, and they end up being left there for a long time afterwards and being found, often a bit rotten, some time afterwards during the summer or something. Um, and so you go off and hunt for them. And that's why they were called Easter eggs in, as I said, beginning in computer games and then into DVDs and then into Blu-ray as they came out. You don't get them so much on downloaded stuff because they're on the menu and they're not titled on the menu. Sometimes you find things in the menu of DVDs, and maybe many of you will go off and find your DVDs now and stick them in an old DVD player and see if you can find any Easter eggs on them, which aren't in the menu. But if you scroll down, your cursor will stop and you'll click on it, and it's something hidden. There's a hidden thing there. It's a beautiful thing to find. And in computer games, where it started, there were hidden levels which weren't on the kind of progressive level staging and the bit at the beginning where you can choose which level you've got up to. They were hidden levels which you found secretly, and then you told your friends where they were. If you go to this bit here on this screen, on this part of the game, click this thing here, and you go to a secret level and you get extra points and extra lives and things like that. So these things were hidden away intentionally for people to discover and find in the secret hidden places. And so I've entitled that, obviously, we have the Easter season and the Easter period coming up where people go for Easter egg hunts. So I thought, I want to talk about those hidden things, which I will expand on in a moment. So yeah, this idea of these hidden Easter eggs on DVDs, Blu-rays, and computer games. So if you're familiar with them, then you already know all about that. If you're not, then perhaps you can go and find some in your old DVDs, Blu-rays, and computer games. You might find some amazing new things. But anyway, I want to talk about the hidden things, not Easter eggs, not the ones on the DVDs or in your garden, or wherever you do your Easter egg hunt, but the hidden things, the things that are within ourself. Now, across the course of these talks, what we've been talking about is Christ beyond the church. That's the overarching title of the series of talks, Christ beyond the church. Because as we discovered last week, particularly honed in on that specific idea, the cosmic Christ is bigger and broader than the church itself, than just staying within the church. And if you haven't listened to week 5 or watched week 5, then go and do that shortly, and maybe stop this and go and watch it now and then come back. Because I talk a great deal about how God moves outside of the Judaic Christian tradition, just even just inside the scripture story in the Old and New Testaments, and continues to do so in all of the last 2,000 years worth of history of the Christian heritage, and still does today, in my opinion. It is not bound within the restrictions of the Christian faith. But what I want to talk about today is more specifically about us as human beings and the element of the divine which is within us. Now, I've also done a meditation to begin each of these, and they are related to the topic that we're talking about. And we spent some time in the meditation just now, just drawing in kind of consecutive shrinking circles or awarenesses um, into the core of our being, into the center of who we are, into what we might class or call, and many have called in their writings, the secret place, where no one else gets access, only us. And sometimes we don't even allow ourselves access into these places because we want to stay in the places that we feel safe in. Because actually, when we draw into the very center of ourselves, when we draw into the very core of our being, it's a place where we are the most vulnerable and the most naked in our sense of identity. And sometimes some of us don't even like that within ourselves and don't even like to be there within ourselves. But these are the hidden places within ourselves. And what I want to talk about, what I want to us to think about in this time is what is there? What actually can we discover in those hidden places? Because the Christian scriptures speak regularly of things within us, within ourselves. Jesus spoke of the kingdom of heaven being within us. And that phrase is one of those ambiguous phrases which could mean collectively, it could mean individually. It's a bit like often when we say, oh, it's something is among you or within you. It could be a collective thing, or it could be an individual thing. A great example of that is the two times that the Apostle Paul said, "You are the temple of the Holy Spirit." One of those times is a collective time if you use the context of the verse. So you are the temple of the Holy Spirit, meaning the ecclesia, the church, the collective. And one of those times is meaning individuals. You, as an individual, are the place, the sacred space where the Holy Spirit resides. And so when Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you, it's one of those ambiguous moments where it could mean collective or it could mean as an individual. And many people have taken that to mean the individual. So the kingdom of heaven is within each one of us. And that reflects, of course, the idea that each one of us is made in the image of God. The image of the divine is within each of us. That's the core of our being. And the image of the divine within us means that we have that sense of the divine presence within us and the divine within us. And as Thomas Merton has said, that as the Apostle John refers to God as love, God is love. Therefore, if the divine is within us, if God is within us, then if that's the center of our being and our image, then love is the core of our being. Love is the meaning of our lives and the expression of that love, that unconditional, untainted, divine love is our expression. And so there is this sense of this being within us. The other verse that I often reference, and I run a workshop day um, based around my contemplations on this verse. Um, the workshop day is called More Than Meets the Eye, and that's this eye, more than meets the eye, not this eye, but this eye. I am this, and more than meets the eye. And it's the verse that the Apostle Paul refers to when he says, or it's a verse from the Apostle Paul that says, it is no longer I that lives, but Christ lives in me. Christ is within me. And my questions around this verse and my contemplations, which led to that whole retreat day, that whole workshop day, is who is this I that no longer lives? Because obviously the Apostle Paul was physically still alive. It wasn't the physical Apostle Paul. And what does it really mean if that I no longer lives, but Christ lives within us? And the subtitle of that day, The More Than Meets the Eye Day, is Transcending the Ego, because the I is the ego. The I is the bit within me that pushes itself out, the persona of self that pushes itself out to project itself onto the world, because that's who we want the world to see us to be. And actually, often it's a defense mechanism. The ego is a defense mechanism. Rather than necessarily being a narcissistic, I want to be the best, I want to push myself out, often it's a defense mechanism, or it's something that gives us a sense of comfort and it gives us a sense of security within ourselves, because we have that kind of protective barrier around ourselves. We've created this identity around ourselves. But this is just a false self. This is the I that the Apostle Paul talks about that is dead if you are walking in a truly spiritual nature. And then it is the Christ, the cosmic Christ, obviously not the physical incarnation of Jesus, but the cosmic Christ that we've spoken about a lot over these last few weeks during this Lent series, that lives within us. So this is the things that are within us. This isn't the external context of a transcendent divine. This is the element of the divine that lives within us. This is the kingdom of heaven within us. This is the Christ that lives within us, because the egoic I is diminished. The false self, as many of the mystics over the centuries have called it, excuse me, and the true self, the I that now lives, the Christ in here, the core of our identity, the divine image, the true self, who we are truly meant to be. That's who lives now. And so, what I want to really get us to think about and to focus in on is the hidden things within ourselves that enable us to better live out of this spiritual reality, out of this cosmic Christ center that lives within us. If you have detached yourself from the egoic I, as the Apostle Paul refers to it, and that is, as he says, dead, that is detached from that sense of identity with that. You have let go of that identity, and you now live in a spiritual reality. Then the life within you is coming from that spiritual reality. Then what we have within us is what we need. So this isn't about connecting with a transcendent God. This is about connecting with the divine within us. It's a bit like a sponge that has the whole sea surrounding it, and it has this kind of transcendent concept of the sea, but actually it was also saturated with the water of the ocean within itself. And we're looking at that element of that saturated self with the divine within us, our self saturated with that divine reality, the spiritual reality, the cosmic Christ within us. So we're looking within the hidden things within ourselves, the things that we perhaps push down and hide away, because actually it's easier to live out the egoic persona because it's safer and it's securer, and we're more comfortable with that because we know it better. But actually, if we want to become more transcendent beings ourselves, and actually, if we want to become more Christ-like ourselves, we have to release ourselves from that and come into those hidden things within ourselves. We need to seek the hidden things within ourselves to be able to live out of that transformative reality that we can have through the divine working within us to help us live that out. So what we did just now in our meditation is coming in kind of concentric steps into the core of our being. We started with our physical self. It's the easiest part of ourself to focus in on, our physical self. And then we went in to our mind, our mental self, which is again the next step in, the easiest thing to think about, easiest thing to focus on, your awareness on, is what you're thinking about. And then we went in a bit more to our emotions, what you're feeling right in this moment, which is the surface of our inner self. Then we stepped in a little deeper to our sense of true identity. We went in a little bit more to that sense of real self. And then I suggested going right down to the core of our being, that divine image, the very essence of who we are, into the middle. That's where the secret things are. That's where the secret things are hidden, the hidden things in ourselves, the Easter eggs of ourselves that we can go in and search for. And we can go in and find those hidden things. And that takes some sense of practice. And the first step in those practices is to realize that you've been living out of that egoic I and to let go of that egoic I. You to let go of that egocentric sense of comfort and security and self and allow that to just disappear. All the identities you have as the self and your surface context, your cultural and work identities, your church identities, your family identities. To let that go, it doesn't mean losing them completely. It just means not fully identify with them. Because if you lost your job or you lost your role in society, or if you changed, your family situation changed and you weren't that thing anymore, um, then it doesn't actually change who you are. So these are surface identities. So we need to let go of those um, freely, because what happens is if we don't let go of them freely, if they are taken from us, often that affects us quite negatively. So if we identify with ourselves or as ourselves, the job that we have, for example, if we are suddenly made redundant or we get to a point of retiring, then we feel a lesser person. We don't know who we are. If you full identity is being a parent, then at a time when your children leave home, you become an empty shell of a person. Your full identity has been taken from you. So where if we let go of those things as identities, then we can start to begin to go into ourselves to find the real sense of identity in the hidden things within us. So we let go of those things. We don't stop the work we have. We don't stop being a parent or whatever role we have in the family. We don't stop doing those things. We just don't have a sense of full identity within. That isn't who I fully truly am. The things within us. There are things within us. Everything you need is within you. Everything you need to cope with life, everything you need to move on in life is within you already, mostly held dormant. We need to go in and we need to bring life to that element of ourselves so we can open those things out like a beautiful flower opening out and blossoming. At the moment, it's just in there as a bud, a bit like the buds that sit between winter and spring on the branches, ready and waiting for the right moment to open out into the leaves and the blossom, into the new year, into the life that comes from its releasing and opening out. We need to draw into ourselves and find those hidden things. The first step is to let go of holding on to the identities of your egoic self. Let go of that egocentric idea of this is who I am. And then as we go deeper into that, once we've let go of that, this is moving in similarly to the interior castle that Teresa of Avila spoke of, moving in through the sections to the middle, to the center, to the core, to the very center of that interior castle, the crystal castle that lives and resides within us. Where the divine image is, where the divine presence is, right in the center of that. We're moving in through those uh, movements, those walls, those rooms. We're moving through them into the center of this interior castle. We're going into ourselves, finding the hidden things within ourselves. And the deeper you go, The more you let go of and the more you allow that divine presence within you to transform you, to change you, to allow that flow to go through you, the kingdom of heaven within you will become more and more apparent. That sense of the Christ living in us, that cosmic reality of the spiritual divine living within us will become more and more apparent. And it'll become more and more who we are in our own identity. So we step in more. The next step after the idea of letting go, a bit like the 12-step program, the first step is to say, I've got a problem and I need to deal with this. I might need help along the way. This is the first step. The first step is the biggest and the hardest, to identify the fact that I have this thing that I need to let go of. As an alcoholic, say, I am an alcoholic and I need to stop being an alcoholic. I need to move through this. The first step is to say, I have a problem. The first step in this is to say, I have an ego and I need to release that. I need to let that go. The I in me, the egoic centric I in me needs to be let go of so we can go deeper into ourselves, because you can't go in whilst holding on to it. It's a bit like trying to get through a smaller door. Each time we go into ourselves, we can't hold the bigger things from the bigger spaces. It doesn't fit through the door. We have to let go of it before we can enter into the next door. And maybe you're trying to get through the door. Perhaps you're kind of halfway in and you're still holding on to this thing and you can't get through the door because actually you're holding on to the thing. It doesn't fit through. It's too big. So you've got to let it go and go into the next kind of section, the next process into ourselves. And we do that through the calming of ourselves, the letting go of ourselves, the calming of ourselves. We do that through the contemplative practice. This is why all of the mystics, through all of the ages, through all of the traditions, have used contemplative practices to get deeper into the being. They've used meditation and various forms of that to get into the deeper places, because we need to still ourselves to go into those spaces within the core of our being, to discover the hidden things within us, because there is so much potential in each one of us. There is so much potential not to be the best at your job, but so much potential to be the best human being in a transcendent divine reality that you could possibly be. Every human being has the potential to be a wonderfully transcendent, enlightened, godly, Christ-like human being. Every single one of us who walks this planet has that ability, if only we allow ourselves to go in and discover the hidden things. Now, as we go into ourselves, what I can't do is then tell you what these hidden things are and where you'll find them, because that's different for every one of us. Every single one of us who works on this journey and walks on this journey will find different hidden things within us. We'll find them in different places within ourselves. All I can do is suggest ways in which we could look for those hidden things. So one of those ways is the contemplative practice. One of those ways is finding space and stillness. One of those ways is to not identify with your worldly connections, the things of the world, not to desire the worldly things. Again, doesn't mean you don't have worldly things. It means that you don't strive fully to desire those things. It is about the journey inwards, and it is about becoming more of the self rather than becoming more in the eyes of the world around you, more in the eyes of the divine than the people around you, or even your own identity. Because if you want to become the best at something, if you're focused in on going, I want to be the best at this, I want everyone to think I'm the best at this, I want to do everything I can to be the best at this because I want others to know that, then this is all ego. Then you haven't let go of your ego yet. Even if that is, I want to be the most holy person. I want to be the person who can sit in meditation for hours and hours and hours, and other people will look at me and go, oh, wow, look at that holy person. Even that can be an egoic trip. There's a number of stories of the desert fathers and mothers talking of one another, of saying, well, this person over here, actually, you might think they're really holy and lots of people come and see them, but actually there's the real sense of ego centric self in them. The humility isn't quite there. Now, last Sunday, yesterday, in the live recording, was Palm Sunday. And Palm Sunday is about the coming in of Jesus into Jerusalem on the donkey. And I put a little post up on my Facebook and Instagram page looking at the sense of the humility of Jesus in that act. And through that humility, through that defiant humility, he stood against the powers of the world that he was within, the empire that was taken over his nation, and the religious leaders that worked on power trips. That humble, defiant, humble act enabled him to go in. And it is the humility that shows that we have let go of the ego, because it's only the ego that gets offended. Those who are humble or free of the ego tend to not really get offended, or don't get offended, because it's the ego that gets offended. And we draw into ourselves. So this is a cyclical process. It's not a linear process. You come back to it and you suddenly realize, oh, there's my ego again. I've got that back again. I've got to let that go. It's a repeated process. As Meister Eckhart said, we got to imagine every day, or start every day as a beginner. And we've got to, be willing to start every day as a beginner, doing it again and again and again throughout the day, probably, as we do it again and again, letting go of these things, drawing in. But the more we do the drawing in, the more often we do the drawing in, the more often we letting go of that egoic self, the quicker we can get back into that space. And the more we can live in that space within ourselves, discovering the hidden things within ourselves. Now, as I said, there's no way I can tell you what those hidden things are. They're different in each of us. There's no way I can tell you where inside you will find them. It is about an inner journey, an inner exploration to discover everything you need, which is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The Christ lives in you. You are made in the image of the divine, the core of your being. This is all inside you. This beautiful, transcendent spiritual reality is all within you. And so we can seek inwards to discover these things in ourselves. So I just want to pause for a moment for you to contemplate. Uh, have you ever been on this path? Have you ever tried to release that sense of egoic self, to go through the contemplative practice and meditation practices in different forms to get to an inner stillness and inner self? And if you have, what did you discover in those spaces? One of the most beautiful hidden things within us is the sense of peace and contentment that resides in each one of us once we've let go of all of those other external things. That we can find that sense of deep inner peace and contentment in self that we can only discover when we go into that sense of space into ourselves and letting go of the other stuff. Finding the hidden things. And if you haven't, how might you do that? So pausing in contemplation just to think about that inner journey, discovering those things within yourself. Have you ever even realized that these things are within you? So we're going to pause for a few moments and then I will bring my closing thoughts to you. as we come to the end of that short period of contemplation about our own inner journey into the hidden things in ourselves. I just put this virtual collection plate screen up. This is a free talk and the YouTube videos are free. But if you'd like to help support the ongoing work of Waymark Ministries, who has been the host of these series of talks, then it would be great uh, for you to just scan one of these QR codes with your smartphone if you're watching this on a computer screen, and that will take you directly to enable you to donate to the ministry. If you're watching it on your phone, then please go to the website link in the video description, and there will be options of what to do there if you wish to give to the ongoing work of Waymark Ministries. So our sense of self is often determined by who we think we are, and that is often based around our external sense of self, that sense of identity in the things of the world, not the core within us. And so, as we do this inner journey to discover the hidden things within us, to do that work, to live out of the kingdom of heaven which is within us, the divine presence which is within us, the Christ that lives within us, that Christ consciousness that lives within us, we become more and more like the person we were supposed to be. More and more like the person we were originally designed by that beautiful divine hand to be. As we approach Easter this week, as we focus in on that sense of the sacrifice and the resurrection of the Christ to bring us life. This isn't about bringing us life in a physical sense. It's not about bringing us life after death to get to heaven. It's about giving us a sense of the ability to be able to live the full life of our full potential right now, to discover the hidden things within ourselves right now in our everyday life, in this life, in these moments, to be able to live those out. That is the ongoing work of the cross of Christ. That is the ongoing work of the cosmic Christ within every human being, within the whole universe. As you go back to week 3 and look at the reconciliation of all things, the work of the cross is about the ongoing, deep and transcendent life of the entire cosmos. The cosmic Christ is for the cosmos, not just humanity. And so, as we go into the deeper sense of ourselves, as we discover these things, and as we live out of them more and letting go of the ego more and more, becoming who we are truly supposed to be, we will transform ourselves and we will be transformed by the divine, and we will transform the world in which we live. And if each one of us does that to transform the world in which we live, then the entire planet will be transformed into the goodness of the divine, the love of the divine, which is the core of every single human being that exists right now, that has ever existed and will ever exist. Let us be that change that we want to see in the world, and let us live through that change within ourselves. Let us be willing to let go of the things that don't fit through the door to the next stage in the inner journey, into our deeper sense of self, into the divine presence, into the kingdom of heaven more and more. Let's embody it, and let's live it out. As we go through the Easter weekend, let's remember that this is the work of the cross. to enable us to live this out, to be transformed, to become who we are supposed to be, the continuing work of Christ beyond the church in every human being. May you be blessed. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for coming and joining me for any of the other ones that you've joined me on. And I hope that you will come back and find more. Go to our website and find out other things that we're doing. I am running that More Than Meets the Eye conference in June for a day online, a free day online. So come and visit our website and find out more about that. Thank you. Bless you and happy Easter.